Hey, what's up guys? Thank you for tuning in to LoamWolf.com. Today we've got a very exciting first ride video for you from Nukeproof's brand new SRAM motor equipped Megawatt e-bike. I can already tell you from the first couple of laps I've had on this thing, it is really sick, so strap in, learn all about it and find out how it rides in the first ride report on LoamWolf.com. Let's go.
My name is Stephen Jimison. I am the Nukeproof product manager for this beautiful new Megawatt Carbon, which uses SRAM's brand new Eagle Powertrain system. 2 years ago, SRAM came to us with the bones of their new powertrain system, and together then we worked with them to co-develop that. At the time we created a mule for them using our alloy tube set, and that got them to the races, got testing, and allowed us to also get testing with geometry and what we wanted out of the bike. So yeah, out of the bike we wanted a few things. So we really wanted it to continue to look like a Mega. It needed to fit a water bottle inside the main front triangle. We knew it was going to be carbon, and we wanted the battery to be easily removable. This is going to be a race bike, so it needs to be easily changeable multiple times each day. So the reason why we went for carbon was it meant that we could get it race ready much faster. You know, between prototypes you could easily tweak the stiffness here, the strength here, and that really lets you get to the finished product much faster. Obviously it's also lighter, and it gives you a lot more flexibility with tube shapes and where you're going to house everything. So yeah, we went for this vertical position on the motor, and that then allows the battery to slide out through the bottom of the down tube. That also then gives you some storage at the bottom of the down tube in that cover. In terms of specs, we're going to have two spec models. So we've got the RS as our top flagship model, which is the one you see here. So it has the top tier SRAM products on the RockShox side. We've got the Vivid Ultimate on the rear, brand new Vivid Ultimate. We've got the Zeb Ultimate on the front, 170mm front and rear. It's actually 172mm on the rear, so a little bit more travel than the previous bike. That's then paired with the full EXO transmission drivetrain with 160mm cranks. Wheels are the Horizon Pro wheel set, our brand new wheel set with the ratchet system inside, so it's super reliable. Those are wrapped in Continental Total tires, so we've got the downhill casing, super soft on the front, soft on the rear. The brakes are Code RSCs, again the top flagship model, with 220 on the front, 200 on the rear, so loads of stopping power. And then all of the touch points are Nukeproof Horizon, so again our top tier touch points on there. So we've got the Sam Hill grips, the Horizon Carbon bars on the Horizon stem, and the Horizon Enduro saddle. Size wise we have 5 sizes, so small right through to double XL. There's 20mm increments between reach figures, so we start at 435, 455, 475, 495 and 515. In terms of chainstays, it is 447 across the board. And to counteract that slightly longer rear centre, we've got a longer front centre because we've gone for a 63.5 degree head angle, slightly slacker than the last one. That gives a longer front centre to pair with that longer rear centre. Seat angles are still steeper on the bigger sizes. That's all about our saddle offset, which is all about getting your seated weight distribution correct. That's especially important on bikes like e-bikes, where you spend a lot of time in the saddle climbing, but also climbing really steep terrain, so it's really important to get your seated weight distribution correct. And by having steeper seat angles on the bigger sizes, it means that it keeps that weight distribution correct, and bigger riders are not just wheeling up every single hill.
Alright then, first descent on the SRAM motor equipped Megawatt. Wow, it is smooth and quiet out of the gate. Oh, it's slippery in the woods. Super composed, super nicely damped, stuck to the ground, but still agile enough. Perfect handling package, I would say. That's when the auto shift really comes into its own. You can just focus on the trail ahead and trying to keep it rubber side down. Oh, I should have gone high there. Whew. Creep it high of that tree. And again. So I've had a fantastic day putting this thing through its paces for its first ride review, and it's safe to say that it is a pretty significant improvement over the outgoing Megawatt. It is by no means was that bike a bad bike, but this one is pretty damn special. And yeah, I'm definitely very excited to get it onto the local trails back home for a longer term test to really see how it performs, and then hopefully to include it in our e-bike shootout next year, because I already think after a day on it that it's going to do pretty damn well there. Let's touch on the SRAM system on this bike first. Of course, it is one of the major talking points, and considering Nukeproof helped to develop it with SRAM, yeah, it's safe to say it's worth talking about. In terms of the motor, it's certainly a contender, one of the better ones on the market, given that it is the brose, you know, the motor that we've seen on the specialized bikes in essence already for quite some time. And yeah, anyone who rides a Levo will know that that motor is pretty damn good, and that is very much carried on to this bike. There's plenty of low-end torque, it's nicely well controlled. The noise is quite loud, but it's certainly manageable, and it's a lower tone, so it doesn't get too frustrating, too annoying, too irritating. It's yeah, certainly tolerable. And although people will know that you're riding an e-bike, I don't think you can maybe get away with it anyway, given the size of that kind of burliness of the down tube and everything down there. But by no means does this bike look bad because of that, I don't think. I think it's really, yeah, sleek. Nukeproof have done a great job with the lines on it. And given that you can remove the battery pretty easily and still get all of that battery capacity in there as well, without necessarily sacrificing frame rigidity because of the design too, I think overall Nukeproof have done a killer job there. The auto shift tech we'll talk about more in the first ride review of the SRAM system in particular, so check out that video on the channel if you haven't already. But yeah, certainly the auto shift tech has been really impressive. The coast shifting as well is really nice, so you can, yeah, just keep on cruising down the trail. You don't need to crank necessarily to change gear, and that's really a game changer, and makes for a really nice difference. Just so that this, well, SRAM, the system always kind of tries to guess what gear you want to be in, and then tends to do a pretty good job, which is really impressive. You know, you come down a section of trail that after coasting for, you know, a minute maybe, and then you go to crank, and without thinking about the gear, chances are it's going to be about right, and if not, it'll only have to change once or something, and then that changing under load is fantastic as well. So although it might be a little bit on the loud side, when it does shift, it never really feels like it requires you to lift off of power. You can just keep it full gas and get that gear change and be in the right gear. The only limitation that I've found so far with the system is when the terrain changes quite drastically, whether that be the start of a climb after a descent, you know, a steep pitch, or vice versa, if you finish a climb and you drop into something on the descent quite quickly. I did find that the system, regardless of the setting that you have it in, could lag behind a little bit and then leave you either spinning or trying to push a really hard gear and kind of bogging down the motor. So certainly you can't afford, or I couldn't afford certainly, to be completely switched off from changing gear on this system. I did need to still input my yeah, just to get it either into a really easy gear for a steep pitch of climb ahead of time, or to drop it into a harder gear for a descent, you know, if I want to crank it on the start of a descent. So maybe, I don't know, I don't feel like the system's ever going to be able to read what's going on ahead of the trail, certainly not for quite some time. So for now, it certainly does a pretty damn killer job, and it's quite impressive and works really good. And let's talk about the rest of the bike, because of course that motor is one thing, but it's no good having a good motor if when you hit the descents, or if you're on the climbs, the geometry and the suspension package and the overall frame stiffness don't perform well as well. But thankfully, Nukeproof have absolutely nailed it with this one so far, I would say, especially with that Vivid and the overall suspension package on this thing. It's been really impressive how it manages to still pedal well. You know, you can be on a technical section of trail, it'll still kind of latch onto the terrain pretty well, but it doesn't bob and wallow and leave your cranks hanging super low. There's plenty of pedaling support there, but also on the descent, the kind of combination between support but then off the top sensitivity and terrain ironing kind of abilities are quite impressive. And that's just been from a bog standard, yeah, kind of suggested settings on this thing. I've not played about with it much, if at all, and it's feeling really good from the get-go. So I'm really excited to get this thing for a long-term review, and yeah, put some more time into setting up the suspension to get the absolute best out of it, because I think this thing has got potential to be an absolute ripper, not that it isn't already. One last thing is the overall balance of it, the geometry. That rear end, which Steve earlier said is maybe a little bit longer than they wanted it to be necessarily, I think is absolutely perfect for this size large. 475 in the front and then 447 in the rear. Feels really nicely balanced to me. On the climbs, even when it gets super steep, especially with that saddle offset kind of philosophy, keeping that saddle position fairly well centered, means that I've been super comfortable so far, and not had to struggle getting all the weight onto the bars to keep that front wheel down, meaning that you get to kind of have the good compromise between keeping enough power grip, sorry, on the rear wheel, but also keeping the front wheel, you know, pointing in the right direction. But then also on the descents, you don't have to actively weight that front wheel, even though it is a super slack head angle, or yeah, pretty damn slack in the grand scheme of things, pretty much a downhill bike head angle at least at this point. Overall, it just feels like you're super nicely centered, both on the way up and down, in between the wheels. And yeah, I think the thing absolutely rips, and it, you know, sometimes it can take you a little while to get things figured out, but for this thing, it's been literally a case of hop on and go and enjoy it and just feel comfortable and at home. So yeah, kudos to Nukeproof, I think, so far. If you're considering this new bike with this new motor system, and you know, you're concerned, maybe my first instinct is that this thing is going to be a very good buy. And even though the prices have elevated a little bit, you're sitting at around about $11,000 for the top end build that you see here. To me, the value seems to be certainly there for a premium product with the latest and greatest tech and some killer performance. But yeah, you'll have to stay tuned for the long-term review before I can give you the absolute yeah, final say on that. But for now, I think it's safe to say it's been a lot of fun. I hope you guys have enjoyed checking out this first ride review on the brand new Nukeproof Megawatt. Do give us a like if you have, leave us a comment, let us know what you think of this. Do you think auto shift is the future? If you don't, then you might not have a choice, because yeah, I've got a feeling this system isn't going to go anywhere. And subscribe to the channel to see more awesome content on awesome bikes like the Nukeproof Megawatt. Thanks for watching, catch you out on the trails.